thanks for that Prime Gaming sub. We see you.
And welcome back to Smite Masters, powered by our friends over at Prime Gaming. If you've got an Amazon Prime subscription and you aren't already partnered in here with Prime Gaming, well, what are you waiting for? There's so many great things out there, free games, free content for all the games that you're probably already playing, as well as many other great benefits like a free Twitch Prime sub to any of your favorite streamers out there. If you don't have an Amazon Prime subscription, you should probably jump on that because there's a lot of great things that you get. 2-day delivery on most items out there on their website, as well as the free 2-day shipping, I should say, on that one. That's the added real good caveat there. And then there's always music, books, groceries, which I just recently learned that was even a thing. I didn't know that you could buy food outside of maybe a 6-pack of drinks or something like that on there. But with Amazon Prime, then you can get into Prime Gaming and get all the great stuff that Prime Gaming comes with out there. So make sure that you're making the most out of your subscription today with Prime Gaming. Thank you so much for being our sponsor here in Season 9 of Prime Gaming. It's J-Mac. I got Ro this time with me on the desk. We get ready to jump into our fourth set of the day now, our second one of the best of threes. Now, the Eldritch Hounds, the #1 NA seed, now here against the Highland Ravens. Probably not the position that we thought that these two teams might be in, though.
No, I mean, the Ravens I could have maybe predicted given the fact that they're up against the challenge that is ping. The Hounds, however, lossless throughout this year up until today. So I think they're kind of checking themselves right now and seeing, what can we clean up from that first game? It was just the best of one, so hopefully they're not too shaken by it, because anything can happen in a best of one, really. Are they going to go back to the Baron? We don't know, but what about Ravens?
Yeah, we don't really know what's going to go on with these two teams now that we're jumping into here. We got a good little taste of both of them in those best of ones. Obviously, both of them coming with a loss here, which means that a loss in this set will send one of those teams home. The winner will then have to face off against the Callan Wardens, or not the Callan Wardens, I'm sorry. They'll have to face off against the Gilded Gladiators to then move on with the Callan Wardens into our second day of play here. But the Highland Ravens, a very interesting team to say the very least, and they've always got some very interesting builds, and I know I've said interesting twice, but that's really the kind of the focal point of this team here. Mogao is always a player that I keep my eyes on over in that solo lane, as he's come up with some very eclectic picks, really all throughout his career.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I noticed that the way they drafted was a lot of big circles. Maybe that's a ping factor as well, but it just seems like they wanted the team fight as well. So not so much on the pressure side as compared to someone like the Wardens. So maybe they learn from that and they can maybe copy that a little bit. We didn't see Coast at all struggling with the ping as well. But, maybe some higher pressure picks that will come out rather than, I think last time they topped to a Jormungand and a Geb or something like that.
Yeah, and really not the highest pressure you can see. And the Jormungand wasn't even really that much of a front line. It was definitely more of like a mage style of build. You want to get that burst and get out of there. They are going up against, though, the Eldritch Hounds. The #1 seed out in North America, as you said, undefeated coming into this tournament, has already suffered their first loss of the phase as far as a set is concerned. But now in a best of 3, things can really shake up with this team.
I mean, it's all really down to their grit and their mental, right? They hadn't lost before, and they're on land, right? That's two new experiences for them today at one point, and they're up against the wall, really. They have to win, otherwise they're going home. And everyone kind of had high expectations. They don't want to disappoint those fans either. Yeah, they want to make sure that they can find those wins and kind of keep the pride of North America alive out of here. Crimson, one of the least dying players in the entirety of Phase 1. I'll have to go back and double check a full count on here. To my memory, it was only up until this tournament, I think, like 6 to 8 deaths for the entirety of the phase. And that's something to say here out of the mid lane. He's got a great team that's around him, though, to be able to make those kinds of plays. Yeah, look, I believe it. Like, Oath, everyone is like hyping him up as like one of the best junglers that's coming out of the SEC now, both North America and Europe. So I think, if he can really find his stride this game instead of, how it was in the first game where he was playing Erlang there too, but just couldn't kind of get rolling. He struggled, into, I think it was the Hercules at the time, and he was, basically pulled in, stunned, and dying pretty quickly.
Yeah, we do have Dude Man Bro here kind of going against the grain. We've been seeing a lot of the Kinsai crit combo coming out of these hunters, but we only saw the crit out of him previously in game #1. We'll see if maybe he makes some adaptations here with this team. The full roster of the Hounds. Remakami was really coming up big in that game on the King Arthur. Built a ton of HP 5, to say the very least. So he had a lot of health and a lot of sustain as far as his build was concerned. But the Eldritch Hounds were struggled to be able to find success in game #1 of their set earlier on. Now jumping in here against the Ravens, as you said, maybe a little bit of a ping factor. Might be a little bit of a downside for the Ravens in this instance out here. But when it comes down to that, I mean, we've seen the adaptability that teams make. You draft bigger circles, things that are a little bit easier to hit.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, it's up to them if they want to kind of ban those big circles away and try to just force them onto something that might be even more uncomfortable, or they can focus on themselves. You know, maybe they have other ideas in the tank. You know, the first game of the day, we saw them come out with a Baron first pick. Do they still believe in that? I can't say it did very well. I thought it was a flex pick at the time, but they never really looked to put it in solo by the looks of it, and it went straight to Quig in support, which he didn't have a great game, and it kind of, that was basically how the whole game went for them in the end. So they kind of lived and died by Quig's Baron there. So we'll see if they run it back. Maybe they put it in the solo lane. Maybe they even ban away the Baron if they think it's a great god, but they're not doing too well with it.
Yeah, I think that dual lane matchup between both these teams is one that people should really keep their eyes on, between Silenced and Coast on the side of the Ravens, and then Quig and Dudeman Bro on the opposite end here for the Eldritch Hounds. I think that's going to be a very fun matchup to watch, at the very least. Vapor's Coast, even despite playing on a little bit of a deficit here, is still playing these kind of harder gods out there. You know, Ullr is not an easy god to play just in general, and then you throw him on a little bit higher ping, and it makes it even more difficult there. But Coast is no stranger to playing on that ping. I mean, I used to watch him queue up into like North American ranked games, especially up against like Baron and whatnot.
Yeah, and Ullr is a confidence pick as well, so clearly he's not shaken by the situation that he's in. You know, he's like, I'll hit these axes, and I believe that we saw him hit axes mid Jingwei dash, so he's got what it takes, and it's just up to the rest of his team to follow through as well. Not that they did too poorly, but yeah, they had a rough matchup.
Yeah, rough one for both these two teams in our first sets of the day, those best-of-1 matchups. But like we said, anything can really happen in a best-of-1. Somebody picks this really strange god that you'll probably only see one time in the tournament and finds a win out there, either because it gets banned away or because they just wanted, you know, kind of an easy win to find their way out there. But now in these best-of-3s, it always does kind of shake up things. It really does change up the dynamic of those picks and bans. What was something that you saw earlier on the day might be something that they don't even look towards, or maybe something that they kind of keep in the back pocket for later on.
Yeah, not only that, but we have more information now. Now there's much more games that have been played on this patch, apart from their scrims, obviously, that they had to go off of, but they can look at the earlier games in the day. And as we get into this game, you know, they can take those lessons into it.
Picks and bans for game number 1 between the Hounds and the Ravens. One more NA versus EU matchup, and maybe one more to come if the Ravens can find a win in this set. Otherwise, we'll be seeing... Oh, no, we'll still see one no matter what there. It'd be an EU if the Ravens find the win, or be an NA if the Hounds do. And that'd actually be a rematch of our very first set of the day, too, so that could always bring an extra point of intrigue out there. Speaking on some bans, a god that we haven't seen banned away in some time, and one that I would more often associate with a team like the Gladiators, Fenrir, banned away here by the Hounds. How do you feel about this ban?
Look, I actually think it's pretty good in the solo lane right now. We know it's good in the jungle, that's for sure. When you get to that Boomba's Hammer point, which more teams are with it going into the later game, he's very strong, if not one of the strongest gods in the game. The Osiris one I'm a bit more surprised by. I didn't see that one coming at all.
Yeah, Osiris and Erlong Shen there by the Hounds. Maybe interesting that Oath was the one who played it earlier, but now we'll have it banned away up against the Ravens. Jingwei, no surprise with how much priority she's been seeing and how much praise that she's been getting across the board, taken out along with Kleena and Amaterasu. Maybe a ban that we should have seen last set. I mean, Ama was really popping off in our previous matchup.
Yeah, it looks like they just didn't have the space to ban it in that last set. But in this set, you know, they're saying that we don't want Hounds to copy the other NA team's style, and we don't want to play against that because clearly it worked for the Wardens. It would probably work for Hounds as well. But instead, they've just gone straight for the Emojo, which has also been a very high-performing pick so far.
I mean, something that worked against them in the very first set of the day. Now something that they can try and use against the Highland Ravens here, who now have the option for their first 2 picks. Last time around, it was Jormungandr and Geb. We'll see if that changes with the Ravens here in their first game of this set. Best of 3 elimination on the line. Game number 1, a very important one in these best of 3s. Get the right foot forward. And Heimdall going to be the first one here. Basically an EU exclusive first pick.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he's just going straight back to the comfort pick. We saw him in his regular season games just basically not crutching on that Heimdall, but like, look, that's my best pick. I'm going to pick it because I want to win. Then we saw Nemesis as well. We saw Sino do great on Nemesis. I think a big part of that is building like the Executioner and calling objectives at the perfect time. So if they can do that on the Ravens, then they can emulate that playstyle.
We do see an Artemis now picked up on the side of the Hound. So the dual lane rounded out. And with the Emojo, or with the Emojo already locked in, I should say, in a Baron pickup now, maybe a little bit of extra flexibility with him. Still could potentially see a mid. That was kind of one of his OG roles, though these days has more often than not gone over to either the solo or the support role here. But I mean, we've talked in the green room just about how annoying a solo Baron with the Bumbus Hammer can be.
Yeah, it takes a little while to get there, and not much happens in that lane before then, unless you can force a good Baron ult on someone that doesn't have a beads, for example. But I'm really glad to see them make this shift. Clearly they still believe in their ideas. They're still picking the Artemis, and they're still picking the Baron in what looks like a team fight centric comp and a scaling comp. But they're just shifting it a little bit. Noticing their mistakes from the first game, saying like, hey, we believe in this for a reason, but let's clean it up and make some changes.
We'll see where the Ravens go with this final selection here before we jump into the second wave of bans. With that Baron giving some of that flexibility there, though, we'll go ahead and safely slot that one over to the solo, at least for now, unless the Hounds want to throw an extra curveball towards us here. But the Ravens, with their Hunter and with their Jungler locked in, focusing more so on their back line than anything. And I was very curious if Cthulhu was going to kind of peek his head into this meta, gets an immense amount of HP when he does jump into that ultimate, now with even more base HP. Yep. That's a lot of health to chew through. It
is, and remember, his heal in his ultimate scales off of his health, so he's healing even more now. Now, you get at least matches, or maybe almost matches, the healing from Baron and Umoja together while he's in his ult. And I didn't think we'd actually see Cthulhu in this meta, because I thought he just wouldn't have enough wave clear, but I guess against the Baron, he's not going to be pressured out much. They both get to scale. He says, if you're going to scale to level 20, then I'm going to pick a late game god as well, since I'm not going to be threatened. So it's a smart choice. I'm not sure how he'll do into Artemis. He definitely struggles against the Umoja walls at times, but a shell can get him through that.
We do have a couple of assassin bans on the side of the Ravens. Susano and Daji taken away from the jungler here, so Oath gonna have to dig a little bit deeper into his god pool for his pickup here. Then a couple of mids on the side of the Hounds. The Morrigan gonna make her way here, and then Hell, which again I'm surprised that's making it through. Kumbhakarn gonna be locked in here on the side of the Ravens. Now, if it weren't for the fact Cthulhu is locked in, and we've talked about how we don't really like Cthulhu's support. It's not something that really only Inbound has ever, been, gone to the bat for. But Kumbhakarn is definitely a Mogao style of god, but I gotta imagine this one's going over to support.
It is, unless there's something spicy coming out, which I would enjoy. So I would enjoy seeing some Cthulhu support, but I imagine it is Kumbha in the duo lane against the Artemis Umoja, which I don't think is a necessarily good matchup for them. But hey, not much might happen in that duo lane, and they might be able to get away with it, just like the Cthulhu, and scale into a pretty difficult to kill team fight.
Do have the Hounds. 2 more picks left. Umoja, Artemis, and Baron already locked in. And now you're going against the Kumbhakarn. A lot of lockdown from this god between the Mez and that Groggy Strike. So if you're the Hounds, do you try and get something with a lot of mobility, or you maybe try and get something with a lot of interruption to try and stop that god?
I mean, it looks like they're going to prioritize a little bit of objective DPS. We saw Wardens do the same thing with the Mercury. They have the Artemis DPS already. If the Baron and Umoja can make space for these frontliners to call, hey, let's do an objective now, and they can burn it quickly, then it could work just like it worked for the Wardens.
Now, typically when we see gods like Kumbhakarn and Naja, these ones that can take a god out for a few seconds at a time and then come crashing back down, we usually see some kind of big burst follow-up there. If you're the side of the Ravens, obviously you still have to watch these two picks come out of here at the Hounds. Their jungler being hovered here with this Mercury. Is there any god that maybe stands out to you that the Ravens could pick up to kind of get that follow-up?
Look, I'm not sure right now. So far, they surprised me with the Cthulhu, which I didn't expect. The Kumbhakarn that I didn't expect. I'm glad to see the Heimdall, something that they've gone back to from the regular season, and the Nemesis that Sinai's already proved is great. And now they're fighting against a double Hunter, which Kumbha just became a lot better for them.
Kumbha's going to be a nice little pickup, or a nice little matchup with that one. But talking about that double Hunter, this is something that was kind of hinted at a little bit here, with how good Hunters are right now, with how good kin size and crit. I was trying to put them both together with how good Kid is out here right now. We were talking about maybe seeing Hunters over in both the mid and the duo lane. Some people may be joking, oh, throw a Hunter over into the solo lane sometimes, but we'll finally see our first double Hunter comp. And then with a Mercury, you want to talk about objective shred, man. This is a lot that this Hounds team has picked up.
Look, before this tournament, all I heard about this patch was that Hunters were OP and that Baron was really good. Now it's the Hounds. They have to prove it. If they can't win this game, then I guess everyone online was just talking smack.
Well, when you're looking at this one, Merlin, maybe not the one that I would have thought as a follow-up, but how do you feel about Merlin with this Ravens composition?
Good, consistent damage, which is what you want. When everyone's got a higher health pool, it's much harder to burst them down. So if you can get these abilities like Merlin Frost Dance, for example, always throwing abilities out, always having poke, and it can end up being really, really effective. He's not too much threatened by their dive, unless he gets caught by a Umoja wall in an unlucky scenario, or an Artemis ball comes right through a team fight. I can't imagine him getting pulled in by a Baron, and hopefully he's not getting stunned by a Medusa either.
Hopefully not on that. We have seen a lot more Medusa Petrifies actually connect this year than I think we've seen in most competitive seasons of SMITE. It's wild how much value this god has been able to get out here. But one thing that's talked about now, this meta, is how important healing is and how dangerous and potent that this one single stat can be. Do you think that the Ravens have been able to draft a composition that can kind of deal with some of that heal and apply some anti-heal out there?
Not so much applying anti-heal, because I don't think Nemesis is going to apply anti-heal very well. It's really just going to be the Divine on the Merlin, but they have matched the healing a little bit. People will be pretty surprised by how much healing Cthulhu does in his ultimate. You know, if it's I think they might have nerfed it recently, but in 9.4, I remember a full build Cthulhu was healing his team for 600 per god that he was hitting, and that's a very, very big burst heal. You know, and that's on par with some of the best healers in the game, like Hell. Baron will heal for about 300, and then they've got the Umoja shields as well.
When you're looking at these two compositions, is there any kind of clear favorite that you have towards these ones? You know, when we start getting to these later team fights and stages of the game, is there one team that kind of has more of a clear victory or a clear path to victory?
I gave Hounds my full credit the first game of the day, and they did lose, but I'll give it to them again. They've got the double hunter, which everyone's been saying is good. They've got the Baron in the solo lane this time, I believe, I hope. So I hope
Fingers crossed.
well.
Yeah, fingers crossed the Barons may be going over there at this point. So will the Hounds be able to find some success on this new meta, everything that everybody's been able to talk about, talking to the ends of the earth on how good it can be? Can the Hounds find a victory, or will the Highland Ravens be able to find themselves a sneaky one out here and put the North Americans on the back foot? We'll have to find out all that and more in game number 1 going on right now.
And truly one of the most important games of the day. Today is going to be this game is going to be the first elimination set of today. One of these two teams is going home. Mifflin, break it down.
Break the whole game?
Break the whole game down.
The whole game
The
down?
whole game.
Yeah, I'm not certain that I'm entirely capable, you know? We're like 8
got
seconds
this.
in. We're not even 8 seconds in.
Listen,
We're negative 8 seconds in.
I just want you to tell me who's going to win, what the builds are going to be to the exact items.
Okay, so yeah, you meant what you said. When you said
Break down
to
the whole
break it
game,
down.
man.
Yeah, I plead the fifth. Oh, that doesn't mean anything to you, does it?
No, I get it. I
okay,
understand. I've heard that before in
understood.
movies and stuff.
Okay. Look, this is a game that I think is going to be dictated by pacing, right? Which one of these teams is going to be able to establish early game dominance? Because neither one of their compositions is slanted towards the early game. Evaluate the Highland Ravens and ignore what the Eldritch Hounds have brought. Look at that draft, and that screams to me, hey, let's team fight at 25 or so minutes. And that sentiment is the exact same for the Eldritch Hounds. So when two teams have got late game slanted drafts, you can go one of two ways with it. Which one is stronger in the late? Well, that's hard to evaluate, right? The Oath is going to be scaling incredibly well on this Mercury. The healing between Remakami and Quig might make it difficult for the Highland Ravens to deal with late game long dances around these objectives. But I mean, Ro highlights it incredibly well. Lamogal, with some of the changes at 9-5, is going to be healing even more. And a Cthulhu that is healing more is probably matching up at least what Baron Samedi and Umoja are bringing together. So I think it is more so who is able to establish that early game dominance to give themselves a slight lead working their way into the late.
And we've kind of heard the desk breaking down kind of this is the first game that we've seen so far this week where we've had the double hunter composition, which has been so heavily talked about, I think, by the players, by us in the studio. And obviously on the Highland Ravens, we've got this Kumbhakana. That Mesmerize is going to bring a lot of attack speed slow to those hunters. Do you think that dynamic is going to really affect one of these teams one way or the other?
Well, I mean, double hunter composition is always going to be good up against the Cthulhu in particular. Both can move towards kin size, and it's not as if kin size has an answer like how Crit does with spectral armor. So Lamogal likely going to be able to struggle in some of these late game team fights if he's got both Crimson and Dude Man Bro staring him down. But iSilence should be able to at least remove one of those ADCs from the team fight.
Rapio, beads are already down. Could have been in a little bit of a situation, but luckily able to get that shield and then the dash off, so he's going to be just fine. Health bars in the mid lane are all around about half. Everyone's just kind of going back to basics. Highland Ravens, though, are controlling this neutral a little bit better. They've got about a 200 gold lead here. Oath in some trouble at the red buff. Potentially an invade, but decides against it.
Yeah, if they had stuck around a little bit longer, the Hounds, that is, could have forced iSilence to stick around and 3-split that red buff and make it at least worth the time of the Hounds to move in aggressively there. But what we've seen now in that mid 2v2 is that the Eldritch Hounds are leveraging that Baron's Brew very heavily to utilize their HP bars as resource. Sap 7 and Rapio, they don't have a free potion that refills every time they back, so every bit of damage the Highland Ravens take throughout the early portion, throughout that laning phase that we just saw, was impactful. Whereas the Eldritch Hounds, I mean, they're just going to continually heal and head back to base, and Oath doesn't even need to buy another HP pot. He's holding on to that from earlier. That's a great start for the Eldritch Hounds, despite the Highland Ravens getting a slight gold advantage on the map.
And an XP advantage too over here on the right lane. At the very least, Mogao sitting about a half a level up from Rem. Oath, I don't think is going to be paying attention over towards that right lane anytime soon, but where are we imagining? Obviously, this Mercury is going to be coming into this late, but we've already seen him try and be aggressive here in the mid lane on Rapio. Is that a behavior we're expecting to be continued, or is that going to drop off?
Well, I mean, there's certainly potential for Rapio to be put into threat here as a Porsche Coast takes a good deal of damage, trap combo, but returns just as much to Dude Man Bro. I think Rapio is likely one of the easier targets for the Eldritch Hounds to shut down at this portion of the game. Doesn't have a traditional leap or teleport. Instead, it's the double dash, which means that Mercury can either chase it out or interrupt it at points. So I think Oath, rightfully so, putting his aggression there. But as the game goes on, as Oath finishes up maybe his first or second item, gets that golden blade, then you can start shifting your attention elsewhere. Sure, Vaporish Coast is playing one of the safest hunters in the game, but it's still such a fast reaction required to deal with Sonic Boom or something along those lines. If the portal isn't always prepared perfectly, even Quig can make it very difficult to escape.
There's the ultimate through from Oath going straight onto Ice Silenced here, but the Mesmerize is going to stop that aggression. Meanwhile, Vaporish 1v2 here in the lane itself. Rapio on his way in, but now Oath has been isolated, and already the final judgment comes through as he sent through the 9 realms. Surely that means he's going to fall down as soon as he lands. There's a little bit of a delay. It does throw Rapio up into the sky, but he is going to fall down eventually. Speaking of the sky, Quig goes up there as well, but I don't think there's going to be too much more that they can do to him.
Yeah, just poor timing from Oath to go for the gank just then. Ice Silenced and Vaporish Coast both over to level 5 already, whereas Oath's dual lane is just now getting their ultimates available, so just not enough resources for the Hounds to take that fight. And the Highland Ravens very happy to immediately turn their attention towards Oath, who was not quite able to connect his own ultimate. Epic uppercut, the ultimate from Vaporish Coast, the rotation from Rapio, all adds up to first blood for the Highland Ravens, pushing that slight gold lead even further.
Still though, first blood at 5.5 minutes. This is a lot slower. I think even by today's standards, we've been seeing these first blood kills coming out around 2 minutes. And when you've got, I mean, both of these teams are going to scale, as you said earlier, into that late game really, really well.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised by the pacing of this one so far. Both teams, that is, largely just happy to take this pacing. But that said, one of the largest separators you can have when both teams are slanted towards the late is that early game lead. And the Highland Ravens, with just about 1,000, have got themselves a pretty significant lead, I'd say, 6 minutes in. And looking at their draft, Objective Burn is almost always an option for a team composition that has Merlin. So keep your eyes on Sap 7, double auto attacker draft between Rapio and Vaporish Coast. These Gold Furies could go very quickly when neither one of these teams have got the greatest confirmation potential. Maybe slight advantage to the Hounds thanks to Petrify, but I mean, I'm not willing to rely on Petrify in a coin toss situation every time.
For sure, yeah, absolutely. One of those abilities that's kind of difficult to hit, especially at this level of play. Those players really need that setup to be able to land that petrification. So there a little bit of a split of these neutral camps. Everyone's just kind of milling around trying to find out where that next objective is going to be, and that could be this left side Harpy camp, or Crimson could be in a bad situation, but the Dash is going to find him safe.
Yeah, Highland Ravens not willing to overcommit to the fight itself, then there's not much reason to. Instead, take that macro farm, reset themselves back to neutral, wait to group up as 5. That is the entirety of the game plan, I would think, for both of these teams now. But there is some slight advantages that the Eldritch Hounds could rely on right now, and namely, I think it's Quig. There is no Phantom Shell pickup just yet, which means this Yemoja ultimate is inherently got more value at this portion of the game. Guys like Ice Silenced, Lamogao, Rapio, all going to struggle mightily against that cooldown. So if the Eldritch Hounds want to turn around this pace early, I think it's going to be rooted around aggression through their support.
Mivlin, I want to ask you, how do you feel about this Tier 1 Kusari pickup here from Mogao, then transitioning into that Spear?
I don't have strong feelings either way about it. I suppose it's something that Ro had brought up on the desk, that Cthulhu is going to struggle a whole lot clearing waves, especially in 9-5, with the minions being a little bit tankier nowadays. So wants defense from the Kusari, but realizes, oh man, Meyer's just not even doing like half of an archer's HP. I need a little bit of damage early on. Maybe I want to contend with some of the healing that Remakami is bringing. So a Divine Ruin makes just enough sense, and Cthulhu's not very concerned about the 1v1 potential in lane, so delaying Shoguns is just fine.
It's going to be a little bit of poke here onto Sap as he tries to walk back into lane, but still really quiet here. Mifflin, I mean, late game is the name here, right? So these two teams are just going to be farming for the rest of the game, or what?
Well, I mean, they'll wait for opportunities. Eventually something could happen, but as of now, neither team's got enough of a lead to leverage a POI. They don't want to look towards the Gold Fury, neither one confident in forcing an engagement in neutral territory. I think that the only thing that's going to separate these squads now, to an extent where they're willing to move in towards gold or pyro, is if, well, pyro spawns and one team goes there. They'll split the objectives in that situation. But otherwise, a pick, I'm still keeping my eyes on Quig. I think he's got the best opportunity to make something happen for the Hounds. Whereas the Highland Ravens, with a still slight lead that has been cut now, the Eldritch Hounds doing a very good job playing the map. Well, they still have the lead, which means that they haven't got the onus. They don't need to be the ones establishing pace, because as long as they're holding on to what they have, they're just fine, as long as they can transition into late game.
And that's, I think, the name of the game for Eldritch Hounds, just trying to hang on. I think the Ravens did a pretty good job at the start here, just building up that lead, but Hounds so far doing a pretty good job of clawing that back. Some grouping over here towards the left-hand side. I don't think this is going to be anything of value, just picking up those oracles.
Yeah, not much to fight over on the map now. I mean, you can check in with the builds. Charon's coin for Sap 7, going to give him a little bit of percent penetration, deal with some of the defense that Quig's getting very early on, as well as some movement speed to help out with that survivability, make it more difficult for Quig to engage onto him. Silence, on the other hand, has picked up something interesting in the second slot. It's a cloak. Could be maybe a spirit robe. There's a whole lot of CC on the side of Eldritch Hounds, where Makami, Oath, Crimson, Quig, and Dude Man Bro all have the potential to proc a spirit robe and give him additional percentage mitigations. Or even if you think the pace of the game is going to be as slow as it has been, maybe you take your eyes towards some of these scaling items. An early Hide of the Urchin, going to give you a whole lot of potential to scale come late game. I'm keeping my eyes on everything here. Maybe the largest separation, though, is the itemization between these junglers. Rapio going towards the stone-cutting sword in the second slot is going to do a whole lot of damage to tanks, and Rapio is already doing that on his own just by nature of being Nemesis and shredding defense, whereas Oath is moving towards crit in his second slot. Not only makes him very effective against these squishies, but also against neutral objectives.
Silence trying to lock down Quig here, but the rest of his team, meaning Sap, is just going to walk away. They don't want to really take that heat. But it's interesting that you mentioned the cloak, Mifflin, because Quig has also decided to go into this a little bit further along with it, potentially looking more towards that spirit robe kind of area.
Yeah, so we'll see as both of these guys start to round out their builds a little bit. Yeah, these are always the hardest to figure out what's going to happen, right? It feels like we're teetering on a precipice where one slight misplay from either one of these teams could completely open the game. But as we've been watching, it has slowly and slowly started to skirt back in favor, I suppose, of the Eldritch Hounds, who have now got a gold advantage and are looking at the first neutral objective.
Forcing that all out of Lamogao, a huge opening for them, but the instant recognition from the Ravens here to go straight to that Gold Fury. Dude Man Bro is in the area, but this is going to be a really risky fight for him to try and take. Tusky goes in. Eldritch Hounds able to steal it away. Dude Man Bro with the ultimate, and now the Sonic Boom coming in from the Mercury, trying to find some damage onto Silence. Not quite going to find it. Up into the sky he goes. Vaporish now in a bit of a separated position. Dude Man Bro gets him with the trap, and there's the dash through from Oath. One falls down, and Dude Man Bro is the first to get a kill.
When it rains, it pours, and it is certainly pouring for the Highland Ravens, who were not quite able to get any objectives for themselves. The Eldritch Hounds pull the Pyromancer. The answer that we had come up with earlier was if one objective is pulled, they'll likely split them. That was the attempt from the Highland Ravens, but phenomenal ultimate usage from Dude Man Bro to CC immune anything that Eye Silence was willing to toss out at him. Stun connects with Kumbhakarna just in time to suppress the Insolent to get in range and steal away the Gold Fury. Great individual play from Dude Man Bro. Turns what would have been a probably net wash into a massive gain for the Order side. I mean, we saw the charts. That is just as big a swing as you could hope for.
2,500 gold in the lead now. The Eldritch Hounds shoot themselves right up at 12 minutes into this game. We've got a complete pace changer here, Mifflin, and it's super interesting when a play like that happens with such a giant split in the gold, and there's only 2 kills on the board. Total.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be 2 kills on the board total for another couple of minutes, I'm thinking. There's not a whole lot to fight over on the map. Now with Gold Fury and Pyromancer removed and essentially on synced up timers, it means that we could be looking at a similar situation again where the Highland Ravens try and pull one objective and the Hounds can look elsewhere or vice versa. That said, the Eldritch Hounds are playing with a bit more gold in their pockets, so could be looking for a fight.
Rapio attempts some aggression here onto Crimson, and that's going to be a nice mesmerized by silence, but no one really there to follow up. As you said, Mifflin, they don't really want to get too involved at this stage in the game. And you're right, there's nothing really here that they want to fight over. Oath, though, is going to push his luck and try and go for this invade, and there's absolutely no one there to tell him that he can't.
Yeah, well, I mean, who's stepping up to the Mercury now who's already got
No
the
one.
Rage finished and moving in towards that Wind Demon? Oath seeing if maybe he can approach Vaporish Coast in the duo. But inside of his own tower, also with Aegis available, I don't think there's a chance.
Rapio could be in some danger there. Hits the ult off onto Ramakami, but a beautiful shield is going to save his life for now, but not for too much longer. Ramakami finishes that one up with the cross lasers.
Man, I thought Rapio was out alive with how much his HP regen there. Sap 7 forced to retreat towards his own tower with losing his beads.
That is just basically 2 auto attacks onto Sap 7 there, plus an ultimate from the jungler. Truly an insane amount of damage that Mercury can put out here at level 13.
It is. Oath now essentially has got free reign of the map. He's critting for a whole lot. Anyone who takes a fight around Oath will only make him stronger unless you're just straight up killing him. That's the age-old adage. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger.
For sure.
Because Rage stacks up, gives you a little bit of additional crit, will synergize very well with Wind Demon. This Mercury is very rapidly becoming an issue that needs to be addressed. And the answer to this Mercury is likely Kumbhakarna. Eye Silence will have to be the one to slow him down, will have to be the one to close that gap and create situations where Sap 7 can apply his damage or where Lamogao can start to chase him out. But looking at the composition from the Highland Ravens, what's the follow-up on Epic Uppercut? An auto attack from Vaporish Coast, maybe the same from Rapio. You don't have that traditional burst mage that you would expect to follow up.
Sure.
It's not as if you're landing into a Searing Pain or a Kraken. You might land into an Ice Storm, which doesn't really do a whole lot of initial damage.
Yeah, I think maybe the best thing that they can hope for is that Sap 7's got an Eclipse on there. He gets the pullback in. They kind of CC chain for a little bit longer into that tick damage. But you're absolutely right. There's nothing really huge that's going to come into it unless, I don't know, maybe Mogao's ult. He just
Transforms
on
on him.
he transforms on them, keeps them in the air for ages.
Yeah, not the greatest follow-up opportunities for Eye Silence, but I think that really is the only thing that can slow down Oath at this point. 3-stack from the Ravens as they approach their own red buff, but they're very quickly chased out. Buff reset, and the Eldritch Hounds are moving in.
Quigs along the left-hand side here, trying to find something. Oath with the short ult isn't going to find anyone, but it does get him in on the red buff. And I guess that's worthwhile.
I mean, why not, right? I
Yeah.
mean, use the ultimate, get the objective. That's what you were fighting over there anyway. So maybe not a kill, but still certainly valuable for the jungler of the Eldritch Hounds. Neutral objectives are going to be respawning very shortly. Pyromancer and Primal Fury on the way back. With some of the gold spooling changes nowadays, the Primal Fury worth a whole lot less in terms of golden experience than it once was, but still certainly would be an opportunity for the Eldritch Hounds to push themselves ahead.
Crimson finally forced to use those beads. Silence has been doing that all game long. Crimson has not had to worry about it once. This time around, Sap 7 was right there, ready to follow up. Crimson definitely made the right choice there, using those beads to try and get himself out of that situation. Pyromancer and the Primal Fury are back up here, and it looks like the Eldritch Hounds are going straight for that Pyromancer. Ravens don't look like they want to let this one go for free, though.
No, the Ravens approaching quickly, and silenced in first.
3 people hit with that Mesmerize, and Oath still trying to track this Pyromancer, but he's going to fall down here. Scratch that, the Aegis is going to save his life just for now. Up into the sky goes 1, Sap 7, just about 2 HP, and the waves are going to crush him down. Falls Sap 7. Mogao, the next potential target here, already low, and there's going to be a second kill. Ramakami claims credit for that one. Silence being chased out here, and it's just 1 by 1. They fall Mifflin. He is already down into his passive. Vaporish gets hit by the 2 from the Baron Samedi. And there's nothing else that the Ravens can really do to contest anything, so the Eldritch Hounds are going to go straight to the Fire Giant.
Vaporish Coast nearby is still very safe, has the ultimate available with Ramakami and Crimson acting as goaltender. How can he work his way forward? Fire Giant, though, burning very, very slowly. Dude, man, bro, the only one DPSing. Well, now that Oath's here, should go a little quicker.
Vaporish still getting just completely walled out here by Ramakami. The Eldritch Hounds with, I think that might be the fastest Fire Giant we've seen so far today, Mifflin. 17.5 minutes already. All 5 players with the Fire Giant belt around their waists.
And 6 towers to collect gold from for the Eldritch Hounds, so this lead that is already pretty massive will only continue to grow. Not that it's going to require too much active input from them, because if this Trebuchet goes uncontested, it'll do it all on its own. The Highland Ravens, I think, were right in their idea to contest the Pyromancer. Splitting with the Primal Fury would not be as valuable at this portion of the game. Eye Silence goes in with a triple mez. That's about as good of initiation as you could ask for Makuma Karna, but it just was not quite enough. And even with Oath getting locked down, tanks the Pyromancer the entire time. I think he's TKO'd there only by PvE. Oath does not take any damage from gods, and it's still dropped to about 5%. Eye Silence maybe just a little bit too quick on his trigger finger to initiate. Didn't quite have the follow-up that he needed. Nobody around, not even Lamogao, the soul laner, was able to get involved. Descent into Madness still available. Not even certain that we've seen it used just yet this game. The Highland Ravens, they're just losing out on macro.
It started off really slowly here, Mifflin. 10 minutes before we really saw any action, and now here we are only 8 minutes further in. And if we could take another look at that chart, about 10,000 gold, sorry, 900 there. 900? 9,000?
And one more zero.
One more zero on the end there. 9,000 gold and experience separates these two teams. The Eldritch Hounds have found their boulder, and they are going to continue to push it down this hill.
Yeah, tier 2 on the left side would be a great target for them, but if the Eldritch Hounds want to push that, it will be without Oath. Instead, he's going to put his attention towards the center of the map, and Ramakami is going to go ahead and return to his laning phase. Soul laners just love it over there. The Highland Ravens, well, it's pretty difficult for them to find a spot to dig in their heels and defend because, well, it doesn't even seem like the Eldritch Hounds are 100% privy to where they would like to root their aggression. Tier 1 tower mid still incredibly healthy. Tier 2 on left finally starting to be approached by the Order side. 2
levels difference by 3 out of the 5 players here in favor of the Eldritch Hounds. In fact, Ramakami sitting 3 levels Mogao's senior. It's going to be a really difficult defense for the Highland Ravens on the left-hand side, especially Ramakami making his way over here. Oath still in the mid lane, but he's level 19, and I don't think even Rapio wants to try and contest him.
Well, maybe he does now that Lomogao is going to join him in mid. So it's a 2-stack in mid against the 1 of Oath. 4 on left moving in.
The damage from the Ice Storm's coming through, and Oath
Ooh.
dashes into the wall with the Final Judgment on his back, but it's not going to matter because Rapio can't catch up to him anyway. The fastest god alive, able to escape that slow with the 2. Now charging up the Sonic Boom into this left-hand side. Vaporish right at the back there. He's really far separated from Silence for a moment there, Mifflin. I think a well-placed Sonic Boom could be disastrous.
It could be. 1 minute left on the Fire Giant buff, so a good bit of time for the Eldritch Hounds to play with, and it has been a slow push from them. Finally, a 5-on-5. Good damage in a Quig, though.
There's the pull in. Vaporish has to use the ultimate defensively. I think the beats come out there as well. The tier 2 falls, and now here comes Tusky. No one in range, though. But the Sonic Boom finds Sap in the back line, and he's going to fall down. Beads expended for absolutely nothing. Rapio gets away by himself, but the left-hand side now, this Phoenix is looking very open to this roster. Silence takes a Petrified to the back, so he's not going to be a stone just yet, but this Phoenix might just fall.
The healing from the Eldritch Hounds is so hard to contend with. I mean, every single time Ramakami throws out that second ability, it feels like every single one of his teammates' HP bars is topped off. But I gotta give credit over towards Quig. That ultimate inside of the tier 2 tower just to create an opportunity to shut down the objective itself and even potentially look towards Silence. Silence, though, is able to evade it by blinking out not being put into combat. Having water spawn around you doesn't do any damage to you, so he is able to evade, but loses out on one of the best initiation tools that the Highland Ravens have got. The Eldritch Hounds may not have Fire Giant, but they've got plenty of space to work with. Tier 1 in mid falls, Tier 2 will follow suit, and this gold lead has ballooned out of control. The experience, now everybody nearly approaching level 20. Well, everyone that you're worried about. Crimson 2 levels off, Dude Man Bro 1. As opposed to the Highland Ravens, they've got a pretty steep hill to climb.
Doesn't look like the Hounds want to stop their clawing through of all the gold and experience available on the map just yet. The Pyromancer takes a spill. It looks like they might want to go for this Tier 1 in the right lane as well. And you know what? They've got plenty of space to do it. Look at the map right now, Mifflin. Everyone on the Highland Ravens is on the other side of the map, and I can't really figure out why they need all 5 players here.
Well, maybe they're worried about anybody setting up a gank. Nobody on the Highland Ravens likes their odds in just about any of the 1v1s that they could take. So if they catch any of the Eldritch Hounds slipping or rotating over to defend up against Vaporish Coast, could be an opportunity to find themselves a pick and maybe transition it into the Fire Giant. That said, the Eldritch Hounds have not sent anyone over just yet. Oath peeks his head around the corner, locks eyes with eyes silenced, and I think that's going to be it. Oath's not walking in there. Fire Giants on the minds.
Absolutely, yeah. Look at this. All of these players from the Eldritch Hounds, they've recognized where the Ravens are. And honestly, Mifflin, I don't think the Ravens could have defended this even if they wanted to. Mogao, the only one really showing presence, has to use the dash away. Fire Giant is going to fall down here in just a second. Luckily, the Ravens are able to get this Tier 2 on the left-hand side, so that's at least something for their troubles. They're going to look to potentially push a Phoenix, but everyone on the Eldritch Hounds is on their way back, and luckily the Ravens decide enough is enough.
Yeah, Oath no ultimate, so won't be able to stop any of those backs in lane. The Highland Ravens do the absolute best that they can, which is at least exposing one of those birds. If the Eldritch Hounds flub the initiation and a Phoenix, flub the siege, maybe the Highland Ravens can return a bird on the other side. That said, Fire Mini Waves are going to start to slowly work their way towards the base of the Ravens. Only one lane still has towers standing, so that's the only lane I can imagine the Eldritch Hounds are rotating towards. Over on this right-hand side, Lamogao, though, he may be too far forward.
Oath may be able to catch up with him here, and he's going to do just that. The spin is going to force the ultimate, but I don't think it's going to count for anything, Mifflin. Down he falls. The ultimate from Rapio also expended, and
Yikes.
there are the walls. What a beautiful placement from Oath. Down falls Rapio. Down falls Vaporish. And Mifflin, they don't care about the right lane anymore. Well, just scratch that. They've changed their mind as soon as
surely
they
they
end. I think they just go
Just
straight
walk
to
in.
mid lane here. Absolutely. They don't even need to go to mid lane. What am I talking about? They just walk straight through. I think they want to take this Tier 2 just to soften up this Titan just a little bit. But by the looks of things, they do not care about this Phoenix whatsoever. Silenced and Sap, the only men standing between Eldritch Hounds and game number 1 of this game. Scratch that, basically just silenced at this point. There's Tusky to finish up the Kumbhakana. Sap is going to fall down here as well. And Mifflin, game number 1 pretty handily in the hands of Eldritch Hounds.
Fortunately for the Highland Ravens, they aren't embarrassed in game 1. Not a blank. They pick up 1 kill to match the 11th of the Eldritch Hounds. It was a slow start, but an explosive ending to a very quick game. Only 25 minutes. The Eldritch Hounds, it's a best of 3. They're going to have to do it once more.
But the Ravens, you know, this team is not known for slouching. They can definitely come back here in game number 2. It's just a question of if Eldritch Hounds can keep this momentum going. They looked on fire there at the end.
They really did. The objective play, I think it was that first rotation of objectives where the Eldritch Hounds rotate in towards the Pyro, take it for themselves, and then Dude Man Bro, with a heroic play, steals away the gold for you on his own. It is very hard to get your mental back in line after a series of events like that.
For sure.
But essentially going from dead even for the entirety of the match to the largest separation that we'd seen at that point, which is about 4,000 gold. So, well, I don't think you can rely on that every single time to happen. The Eldritch Hounds will likely try and look elsewhere to establish leads in game 2. But if I had to diagnose one problem, I think it's got to be Lamogao on that Cthulhu. I just feel like we did not see anything from him in the entirety of the match.
Yeah, it's got to come from somewhere, this change. But ladies and gentlemen, game number 2 will come up just after this break.
wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind. Yeah, so lost, where do I go? I was in the chase, caught a flat on road. It was all love, X no O. I was feeling rich, but we turned out broke. Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demon take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real. It was back in late December when I did it. I just wish I could forget. Cause I hate how much I love it. Oh, I hate how I just love to catch a feel. Yeah. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind. And if I find a way to get it, when I do it, I can live it and forget. Cause I hate how much I love you, or I hate how you just put me in my feelings.
Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demon take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real. Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demon take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real.
Guess I let my feelings take control. Guess I let my demon take the wheel. Used to think that we be growing old. Now I can't believe that it was real. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind. I've been wasting my time. I don't know why I can't get you out my mind.
Feelings take control.
Game number 1 between the Ravens and the Hounds goes the way of the North Americans as the Hounds find a victory to start this set off and put themselves that much closer to moving on in this group to going into day number 2 of Masters. And what was a very slow start to this game, eventually into an explosive ending out there, really feels like it kind of came off the back of one play in particular. It's J-Mac and Rowe here to help break down that set. But that Gold Fury steal by Doomman Bro really feels like that was kind of the match that then lit the bonfire here that is the Eldritch Hounds.
It was, that whole comp was designed to get into the mid-late game so they could get into that team fight stage with the Yemoja and the Baron, really helping out all their carries in the Mercury, right? And that steal just accelerates them to that point and takes all the risk that is away from their weakness, that is the early game, and gets them to the point where they are strongest. And after that, they just hit the gas pedal.
I mean, we were joking about it in the green room of, all right, we're just waiting for Rimikami to kind of hit this level 20 on the Baron. We get to see the silly shenanigans that come that way, but he didn't even need to get to level 20. Once he hit like level 17, 18, he had that E-Staff online. Rimikami was becoming a problem very quickly, but so was pretty much the entirety of the Hounds.
Yeah, I mean, it was that fight we just saw now. Like, the big Yemoja roll on the big Baron ult, Baron ult pulling 3 or 2 enemies up against this Yemoja wall, never getting stunned, just permanently CCing them in place or sliding them against that wall. Just locks them in position for those ADCs to hit them the whole time. Ends up being very effective. We saw Quig get a huge ultimate to end this game as well, just right after this when Mogar gets picked, unfortunately, And, the Ravens comp isn't bad if they're grouped up. Their 5v5 isn't bad, but when they're getting split up by these Baron ults and these big Yemoja walls like this one, they become much weaker.
That was probably one of the better Yemoja ults that we've seen in quite some time here by Quig, really putting on a strong showing of just how potent this god still is, no matter how many nerfs have come the way of this Yemoja. That lockdown that she provides with that Roost Rebuke, the Riptides, really show why this is such a dangerous god to play against.
Yeah, those walls are happening a lot less often now, but when they happen, we hear about it. You know?
Yeah.
And so people are getting a lot more efficient with them. They don't want to waste that cooldown, so they wait until the biggest opportunities, and we end up seeing big game-changing plays like that one.
I was actually very surprised that once again we see another Hunter composition kind of come out here. This time a double Hunter comp into a Cthulhu. And typically the calling card on that is, okay, it's Cthulhu, you buy kin size. But neither of the Hunters nor Oath picked up a kin size. They just had enough crit and raw damage to burn through his health bar.
Yeah, I mean, look, it should be hard to kill the Cthulhu, you know, because normally a Cthulhu will have something like a Witchblade, which surprisingly we didn't see at all on the Ravens, and he'll have like something like a Spectral, but it just wasn't enough. You know, one, he had to build some damage because he cannot clear waves in 9.5, otherwise he's going to fall very far behind if he has no power. And two, you know, just getting off to a bad start and getting split up from the rest of your team, you're going to get picked off if there's two Hunters hitting you. It doesn't matter how much crit they have or kin size or lack thereof, they're going to kill you eventually.
I did notice there on the very far right of the stats page, we get to see like the healing numbers that come out there. I saw like 6,600 that came out of the support. You know, some decent healing that came from the Baron, and I saw 0 on the Cthulhu. But funny enough, I did see 86 healing coming out of Merlin there. So props to Sap for somehow managing to find
Maybe
86 health
or something,
something like that here. But not quite the strong performance that maybe teams were hoping out of the Highland Ravens. They fall in game number 1. As we jump into game number 2, though, in a moment, Ro, I mean, what are some of the adaptations for this team to make?
Look, I think they need to hit the gas pedal earlier. You know, they were the ones pulling that objective that got stolen away from them. Maybe they can do that a little bit sooner. Look for a little more invades. You know, I don't think the response to Baron is to pick something that's equally low pressure, for example. I think you'd rather go down the assassin route, maybe play a Bastet solo, something that can't get pulled in and out clears and out pressures and out pokes him, you know, and all that, so you can invade him and not let him get to that level 20 point, you know. I think hit the gas pedal, don't let them scale. Sure, you might make a mistake and then all of a sudden you're in the end game and your chances are much lowered, but when you're against an Artemis, Yemoja, Baron, and a double Hunter, Mercury, triple grit comp, you're probably going to struggle in the late game anyway. So I think just take it to them in the early game, try to, you know, knock them off of their path to success, which is the late game, and, you know, maybe just run them down.
Well, maybe that game was a perfect example as to why some people should subscribe to the Church of Polar Bear Michael out here, because,
right,
man, the double Hunters and the Baron all coming out to very strong in that game here for the side of the Eldritch Hounds. But game number 2 should be a closer matchup if the Ravens want to continue their tries here to move themselves on in the bracket, to try and keep themselves alive here. They're going to need to do a lot here. Picks and bans, game number 2. We're ready to go for you guys out here. We'll be the Ravens on first pick this time. Now, we saw a first pick Baron in our very first game of the day. That one didn't go so well here, but now that we've seen what Baron is capable of, and Mogao is a guy who loves to play that god, never mind, they're not going to let it happen at all. Never mind, cancel any thought that I had.
Very surprising to me. They're just banning it away from himself. I was going to make a comment and say that Hounds might ban it. They know that Mogao plays it, and they know that the pick is strong, and then they ban it away from themselves, which completely surprised me.
It's going to be a Yemoja as well. Not going to let Quig have that god again. And after that game, I'm not letting him touch that god ever again this tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think Baron and Yemoja were the 2 biggest impact gods on that team that last game. So I think taking that style of play away from them and hoping that you can beat whatever else is left in their bag, that's a fair play. I would have preferred them to see just, you know, they know what they're going to play against and just run the early game and try to counter those gods, but instead they're going to ban them and try to play their own play style by the looks of it. I'm really interested to see what other bans come out here and what, you know, they chose first pick for a reason, so what are they looking for?
Yeah, that's always the important question is, you know, what are you going to get on the back end of this first pick? Last game, we saw Heimdall as a first pick by the Ravens when they were on the second pick side of the bracket, or of the draft here. But as far as the bans are concerned for right now, not just the Baron and the Yemoja we talked about for the Ravens, the Hounds have banned away once again Fenrir and Osiris, so still sticking with those same 2 bans. Last time it was also the Erlong Shend a couple here. Do you think the Hounds go for that same 3 ban?
Look, I don't see why not. They may want to play it. You know, he played it in game 1. I know Oath is obviously very good at it. It's been changed a lot since he played it for the most part because it got turned into more of a tanky character rather than the assassin-like playstyle it had before. But it can definitely outbox a lot of opponents, and when you're outboxing somebody in a Hunter meta, you know, that's basically what you want to be doing. You just got to make sure you can be in a position where you have those items to outbox, because in the game 1 that we saw, you know, the start of today, he was just being outboxed by those Hunters. So if he wants to run it back, he maybe have to, you know, slot in a Berserkers or something like that instead of a I can't remember what he built at the time, but it wasn't very tanky, I can tell you that much.
Well, we do see an assassin ban on the side of the Ravens, Nemesis, being taken away. And it seems that this new wave of jungle meta where it's this more auto-attack centric, you build the double katana executioner. Seems that the Ravens are starting to see some of the value in that one. We'll ban that god away.
Look, if Sino's watching, he's laughing, right? Because he's played
It's like,
two
look
gods.
what I did.
Exactly. He's already set the meta, and that's what he loves to do most. So maybe we'll see a Mercury come out from Hounds this game as well. So far, if you're doing what Sino does, you're winning.
So far. We will see a Jing Wei as the final ban by the Hounds. It gives the option over to the Ravens. Heimdall's still up if the Ravens do want to go for it, but I think it might be a little early in the draft to go for the Heimdall. Now, normally when it's an EU versus EU matchup in the SEC, that's something that's snap-locked because every single EU hunter has that god in their back pocket. It's one of their best picks typically out there. Maybe up against the Hounds, though, something you don't want to prioritize. Instead, it's going to be Camazotz. I mean, how do you feel about the bat right now?
Look, I think he's okay in solo. You know, he's not suffering the same fate that a lot of these Warriors and Guardians are, that they can't clear waves. He can still kind of do his thing. He's not getting hit when he's up in the air, so fighting those hunters isn't as hard. But I don't think full dive comps are as strong as they used to be. So I can't imagine he's going to have much help on the dive unless they've got a full dive comp planned. But even then, I don't think that fits the meta, in my opinion, much right now. And I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. We'll see.
We do see another assassin being hovered right now. Kleena, who's been banned out of pretty much every game that we've seen so far, is currently being looked at here by the Eldritch Hounds and will be locked in. So no longer the 100% ban rate. Instead, will now join as a combo of 100% pick ban rate. And we saw a lot of nerfs come towards Kleena, mostly in that ultimate. We saw the Pierce the Veil get a little bit of a hit. We've seen some of her scaling touched along the way. You think that she's still that strong powerhouse of a god in the solo lane right now, though?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 100% rates. So I think she's about to have a 100% win rate in this set. So I just think she's that good. She clears waves, no problem. She scales well. She can avoid hunters and get around them and dive them when she needs to. But I'm assuming she's going to be in the solo lane. I don't know how she does against a Hades, for example.
Yeah, Hades locked in here. And now as a mage, one might think, okay, mage, mid lane, no big deal, though we have seen some mages go support, and now a few go into solo. And if this was any other team, you could maybe throw this up in the air. But this is Mogow we're talking about. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, this is his most played god of all time in his entirety of Smite play.
He's played this god more than most people have played Smite.
That is very true.
We can expect good things, and I think the meta did shift in his favor a little bit. Not to say he won't still get melted by hunters in the late game, but his aggressive wave clear will help him a lot in this meta than compared to last metas where everyone was clearing waves anyway.
I do see a Kabrakan as the final pick of the top three here for the Ravens. So a lot of front line and some decent tankiness that can come there. But with Hades and Camazotz locked in, all three of those gods can go to the solo lane. Two of those gods can go into the jungle, and a couple of them, or really only one towards the support. Do you imagine this Cab is going over to that long dual lane there?
So far, my expectation would be Kabrakan support, Hades in the solo lane, and the Camazotz in the jungle, yeah.
Well, we do see Set, the final pickup for the Hounds, as we jump into the second round of bans now. A lot of frontline, or maybe I should just say a lot of damage in general here with Double Assassin and Izanami on the side of the Hounds. One of those could very well likely be the solo laner out there, though we have seen both Kleena and Set go to the ADC role, but with the Izanami there, probably not. We've seen Set go to the mid role. So still a lot of ambiguity here, at least between this draft of the Hounds. They'll take away the Heimdall, though, not letting Coast have one of his signature picks.
No, they must have heard you talking about it, that's for sure. I mean, look, a Cleaner and a Set, they don't want to get their beads forced every time they go in, right? But I think the Set pick does push Cleaner more towards the jungle. I don't think we're seeing Set solo too much lately. I do think he is better itemized for the jungle, and same with Cleaner, is better itemized for the solo lane with things like Soul Eater and stuff like that.
Couple more bans to go through here. Habois on the side of the Ravens. I did look it up just to double check because it piqued my curiosity. Now, assuming that this is up to date and correct, Moga has over 266 hours of gameplay on this Hades.
Yeah, and there's probably a lot more that we haven't seen as well.
Yeah, that doesn't include like scrims, competitive games, or anything like that. So I imagine it's probably maybe even upwards of up to double on that. Baba Yaga may be an interesting ban here. We saw when boots got removed last season, Baba Yaga came up because Warlock Staff was such a prevalent thing. You can pick it up right away, or even Book of Thoth. How do you kind of feel about a Baba Yaga as a ban here by the Ravens?
Look, she is like kind of a long-range artillery. She can hit their backline from a safe distance, and that's what Thoth does as well. So maybe they did want the Baba Yaga, but they've gone for the next best thing. You know, while that Set is diving, while that Cleaner is diving, there's Thoth ult and you know, Thoth ones to end up getting the kills.
Thoth up against a Zhang Kui and a Rom. for the final 2 picks now for the Highland Ravens. A very magical heavy draft here between the Hades, Cabrakan, and the Jean-Qui, but that does give us maybe a little more light as to where these gods are now going through. Hades over to Mogao, Camazotz the jungle, and then Cab over there for the duo lane support to couple alongside Rum. But now that we've been seeing how much tankier gods are over into that duo lane, you have Cabrakan, Rom, that you think that's enough early pressure to kind of really get the lead over in that duo lane?
It could be, yeah, but they're at risk if they push too far up of getting ganked by a set. It's not easy for either of those gods to get away from a set. I think the Jean-Qui pick is pretty interesting in mid as well. You know, with those gods inevitably diving into you, being able to ult and basically your offense becomes your defense, seems like a really good idea to me.
Athena, the final pick here for the Hounds. Now, when we had the SPL and SCC qualifiers come through, Athena occasionally slipped her way in there and went, wow, I think we all kind of forgot about how good this god is. Then we saw the Kings played this god over in the jungle. Captain Twig had piloted that one. And we went, wow, this god can really make some really nasty combos out here. How do you feel about the combo potential that the Hounds have as some follow-up here with this Athena?
When you're playing Athena, that's what you want on your team, right? You want a set getting in there, you want a cleaner getting in there, and then you always want to be taunting into big artillery damage. And that's a Thoth, that's in his army ult. So a perfect Athena pick. I think she can just taunt a Cabrakan, even if Cabrakan wants her. She usually has block stacks, so she can absorb that, and all of a sudden Cabrakan's doing nothing to you. So she's pretty happy. I don't think she's going to get bursted down by this team comp as well, so she can safely dash in, taunt, force a beads, and get out and reset.
Now, while on the side of the Ravens, it's a little bit maybe tankier of a squad between the Jean-Qui, Cabrakan, Hades kind of combo here. Eldritch Hounds a little bit squishier to say the least out here, much more damage focused out here. When you're looking at the Hounds kind of time frame of this game, where's that point where they need to find the lead? That way they can ensure themselves a victory.
I think as soon as possible, I would give favor to Hounds for pretty much this whole period of this game, really, because I just think they scale really well. They're good at from the early game with the assassins. They always have the threat of Athena taunts and Athena ults after level 5. So I think they're sitting comfy. As long as they don't get behind, they just need to be in a position where their damage actually threatens Ravens. If it doesn't threaten Ravens, then Ravens can kind of do whatever they want with their tanky characters. So I think if they can play through their poke with, Bluestone, Soul Eater Cleaner, and set dive, and Thoth Divine poke and stuff like that, then they'll be in a really comfortable position.
So you're kind of picturing this cleanest probably is going to be going over to the solo lane and throwing set over into the jungle here. Now, if you're on the side of the Ravens, you're talking about, the scaling really does favor the Hounds here. Where do you kind of put your pressure if you're on the side of the Highland Ravens to try and ensure yourself maybe an early lead?
You need to be ready for these assassins to come in. If you can blow up these assassins when they come in, because it's inevitable that they will be, then don't let them get the kills, A, and B, kill them so they end up being behind. If they get behind and, again, their damage won't kill the Ravens, then they're in a really comfortable position.
The Highland Ravens have one final chance here to try and rally this one back and take us to a Game 3. Otherwise, they'll be the first team eliminated here in the SMITE Masters Tournament of our 2 weeks out. You don't want to go out on day number 1. You want to at least try and keep your hopes alive here. Can the Highland Ravens do it? Or are the Eldritch Hounds going to run away with this set and make it a clean 2-0 for themselves? It's sure to be a dangerous matchup here for these two teams. A lot of tankiness on one side, a lot of burst damage on the other side. Ro, before we jump in, any final predictions for this set, for this game?
I haven't been great today, but I did get the last one right, so I'm not going 3 for 0. So I'll go Hounds, and you can take it away.
Can the Hounds take it away here with 2-0? We'll find out in Game 2.
Thank you, J-Mac. As you said, it is a big game for the Ravens. It's time to go big or go home. And with Mogao on the Hades, Mifflin, I think we have got ourselves a treat.
That's it. Just a treat.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I think it's going to be an interesting... Sorry, did you want something different?
No, that's good.
You didn't want a treat?
Well, not right now. Mogao has got so much time on Hades, just in general. I got to think this is a pick that he's going to just for the comfort of it. And looking at the rest of the draft built around this Hades, you've got an incredibly tanky front line. I would argue it's essentially triple Guardian. I know that these guys are mages, but Jean-Qui so survivable. Eye Silence literally in the Guardian tab with this Cabrakan selection. So it's going to be a lot on Vaporish Coast, nothing he's not used to. Very used to being one of the titular, pivotal players for his team. But in the late game, it's almost entirely on him to be the sole source of pure damage for his squad. And he's got some pretty difficult targets to do it to. I mean, the block stacks that they were talking about between Quig and the Cabrakan matchup rings true for ADCs as well.
Vaporish is already getting poked out here in the left-hand side as well. Quig on this Athena, which, I mean, by the way, Mifflin, when was the last time we saw Athena here in a competitive match? This is
like last month.
Like last month? Okay, well, okay, that's maybe not as long as I was expecting, but still not necessarily one of the more common support pickups. And I think this is a great character for Quig. He likes being aggressive. He likes playing this setup-based character for his team. I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with it.
Yeah, the last couple times we've seen Athena, with a couple of times in the solo, occasionally in the jungle. Sanford Soccer comes to mind as one of the premier Athena players in the SPL. It has been a good while since we've seen it in support, and maybe for this reason.
The rotations, Quig already in some trouble, as you said, but both of the players from the Eldritch Hounds are on their way over as well. Quig is able to get that dash away. He's going to be just fine, but Sap sitting here at half HP, and Crimson on his, I would almost say, titular god here. The Thoth doing a lot, but not quite enough just yet. The blink forward from Rapio, I think, is going to signal the end of this engagement. No deaths. If this was 9.4 Mifflin, I guarantee at least 2 kills either side.
Yeah, maybe like 5 or 6. Everybody in such poor
Ace,
positions,
this is a
surrounded.
full
Maybe.
wipe.
Could have potentially been the case, but Quig able to resustain very well between the Sentinels as well as the HP pots, already back to about 60% equal up against Eye Silence. Both have the same amount of potions left as well, so net wash in the jungle between these two teams. No separation really in Relics, except everyone from the Highland Ravens actually have essentially used theirs, whereas the Eldritch Hounds maintain it. So everything that I just said, no separation, like the opposite. I lied is what that was.
Lots of separation, in fact.
Yeah.
Right. Gotcha.
All of it.
Even more separated, potentially. Mogao is able to come under the wall here and claim his blue buff for himself. No invade just yet for Oath. But let's talk about this mid lane, Mifflin. I mean, the Zhonghui is a character that we've been seeing, banned a fair amount already today. But on the flip side, Crimson, I mean, you think Crimson, I think Thoth. These two names are almost inseparable when it comes to SCC.
Yeah, and Crimson's been playing Thoth for a very long time. Even back in the console days, there was a conversation Aggro and I had ad nauseum. We had both agreed that Crimson was either aimbotting or using a mouse and keyboard on his console because he was so consistent on this pick and has continued to do so here on PC. So I think you're right to say it's one of his signatures. Whether or not it's going to transition well in 9-5, I am curious to see. It's definitely going to apply a lot of damage in these late-game team fights, but if we're going to talk about 9-5 adjustments, I think you can look no further than SAP 7. This Zhonghui, I think, is going to be a pick we see a whole lot of at every single level of play. Just great survivability, incredibly difficult to poke out in the laning phase, very consistent late-game damage, and consistent damage seems to be this meta. Auto attackers, guys who are constantly applying that artillery, who could just spread it throughout a fight. I think Zhonghui does that all very, very well.
I think, flipping back over to the Thoth, it kind of has that same appeal that the Merlin had in that last game, right? It's not necessarily your burst mage, but it is something that can do a lot of consistent
you seen
damage.
that ult?
Hey?
You seen that ult?
Okay, but, disregarding the ultimate, who applies Soul Reaver better than Thoth,
He's definitely got some of the easiest application, right? Like it's a range equation. He simply hits you from further away than you can hit him. So applying those on-ability effects is very easy for Thoth, and I think Crimson will probably find it continually easy, as you can see from his build, Doom Orb in the first slot. Well, that's going to give you a good deal of mobility. Should be able to avoid some of the initiations from the Ravens as well. You've got a great protection-style composition. Quig going to be an iron wall in the front line. Remakami going to be diving very consistently. Maybe not the tankiest selection on the solo, but pseudo-tankiness through healing, thanks to that Soul Eater in the first slot. I expect great things from Crim in this match, and it's up to the Highland Ravens to figure out how they're going to dive him, how they're going to shut him down. I think it's going to rest heavily on Rapio and onto Eye Silence. No real answer to that wall for a Thoth, barring a Phantom Shell. It's going to be a while till we see that.
I want to push you on that a little bit, because we've talked already today about a couple different comps who have only been running this one frontline, multiple damage. We saw it, in fact, from the Ravens' last game. This time around, it's the Eldritch Hounds with only really Athena. As you said, Rema isn't really going to be providing that frontline presence. But on the flip side, Mogao's tanky, Sap's tanky, but we might have to come back in this in a second as Mogao getting initiated on by Quig. The ultimate is going to come through, and the damage from Remakami, so far so good, but the ultimate from Mogao, that Pillar of Agony, doing so much and making him sustain so much as well. Up into the sky goes Rapio. And that should be all she wrote from the fight. A beautiful rotation from the Ravens.
Yeah, if you're wondering why Rapio doesn't commit onto the kill onto Remakami, because I think Bat Out of Hell likely did have enough damage to at least finish off the kill with one auto attack immediately afterward. Rapio couldn't see him. Flickering visions just completely removes Remakami from the sight line, and Rapio is forced to disengage, not knowing exactly where he was.
Morgau under tower against 3. No Pillar of Agony for him this time, but Quig underestimates the amount of damage he's going to take from that. Remakami takes one tower shot, nearly falls down. Rapio off the mark with the bats, but the jump is going to get it. Oath should be able to clean this one up, though. Silenced around the corner. But the blink, I'm not sure we'll be able to find it. Scratched out the wall, just enough range, but not just enough damage.
Man, that Tremor did a whole lot. 45 per tick. Maybe he's maxing that out, but Oath still able to survive with that very, very quick beat. No, that's just a rank 1. Yeah, Kabrakis
That's crazy.
Seems to just deal a whole lot of damage, but not enough to shut down the jungler of the Eldritch Hounds. So now, top of your screen reflects a moot engagement. Gold still even. Experience dead even. KD's dead even at 2-2. 6.5 minutes in, we've seen a lot more action, but less separation than we did in game 1.
For sure, I think this is maybe the smallest lead we've seen from any team so far. Like, last game, at 5 minutes, we had about 400 gold separating. That was before First Blood happened. So, absolutely got to agree with you there.
Yeah, not a whole lot as of now, but not for lack of trying. And I'm thinking the Pyromancer spawn is going to be very quickly aggressed on by the Eldritch Hounds, namely because Kleena is over in the Soul Lane, and we know what Kleena does to objectives. It's pretty gross. She just removes them from the map immediately with that ultimate, and now with an auto-attack jungler and a confirmation mid laner could look towards these objectives a lot more easily. I think the Eldritch Hounds are in a position unlike they were in game 1, in that even with a slight lead, if they are able to establish one, should be able to look towards these objectives a lot more consistently. Whereas the Highland Ravens don't really have the best objective composition. Instead, they are all in on the team fight.
And it's going to be probably a fight around this Gold Fury that we next see. Probably the biggest POI on the map at the moment. The next one will be spawning in about 2 minutes when that Pyromancer comes on to the board. But there's been a lot of pressure over on this right-hand side, Mifflin, and like, let's talk about this Hades. What is this really bringing to the field? We were talking about the Cthulhu last game. Is this much different?
You know, I'm glad you asked. First off, I think Hades is just very good. There's no way an ability is a 2-second silence on like a 10-second cooldown, and the god is just not good. Also has great sustain in lane and a ton of damage mitigation.
Silenced in some trouble here. He's just gonna fall down. Sap7 tries to come around the corner, but I mean, what's he supposed to do there?
Watch in abject horror as his support just falls down with 0 fight back. Doesn't even drop the ultimate. Not that it would have helped him out a whole lot with Quig hot on his heels. The Eldritch Hounds get themselves a nice pick on the right-hand side, but because it's so far away from the Gold Fury, they can't even start to look towards that quite just yet. I think we are very rapidly approaching the point in the game where the Eldritch Hounds can start to look towards these objectives, but will be a lot easier around that Soul Lane, because in the duo, Vaporishkos has been bringing the fight to Dude Man Bro.
Rapio hanging around here on the right-hand side, potentially looking to get aggressive, but meanwhile in the mid lane, it's going to be Oath getting aggressed onto right here. Sap7's going to hit him with that mark. The 2 is going to do a significant amount, but Oath's going to be just fine. He's not really in range of kill there unless he maybe gets stunned out by silence for a little while there.
You know, I am curious about Sap7's build. It looks like he is going to be going towards that Warlock staff. Generally, you want that a lot earlier on. I've seen a lot of Zhong Kui play in 9-5 because it seems like general consensus this god is very good now. But going for Divine Ruin in the first slot, especially against this composition on the Eldritch Hounds, not a whole lot of healing you're concerning yourself with. Maybe the lifesteal from Dude Man Bro, but how often is Sap7 looking at Dude Man Bro at this portion of the game? Maybe the lifesteal from Remakami. More often than he'll see Dude Man Bro, but still not often whatsoever. I think that Warlock staff would have been much better picked up earlier on. Doesn't necessarily have to be the Warlocks, though. He could keep us guessing and go towards something else.
Rapio once again here on the right-hand side, but this time Oath and Athena are on their way too. Remakami is going to fall down, but now there are 2v2 here on the right-hand side, and look at the damage from Oath! They rips through Morgau! Rapio forced to fly away, and it looks like Oath and Quig are going to back off. Silence comes around, and that's going to be solo for solo.
Yeah, Mogao has got a very interesting build himself. Book of Thoth immediately into the Polynomicon and gets a couple polyprocs there. Seems like Ramakami was not quite privy to the damage output that Hades would have with those autos. Decides to hold on to his dash for a good long while. Maybe concerned with the Pillar of Agony from Hades. If he doesn't have the dash available, he's just stuck there, or at least losing out on the beads, but regardless, loses his life nonetheless. Devour Souls does a whole lot when you're stacked up inside of your own minion wave, and that's exactly where the Kleena found herself. The Eldritch Hounds, though, will maintain their 1-kill lead and lose a good bit of HP on that tower to the Highland Ravens. I didn't realize the Trebuchet is hitting that hard.
Yeah, dude, this especially like Sap 7 just was not allowed to walk up and fight it.
It's like almost dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like Crimson was just there. The Trebuchet just gets like 5.
The what?
The Trebuchet.
Understood.
It's a classic medieval siege weapon.
Yeah, go
Trebuchet.
ahead. Yeah, do your thing.
But yeah, he just gets like 5 shots off on that tower. It's already half HP. That's crazy.
Yeah, so now that tower could be susceptible to a siege a lot earlier than I think they would like. Quig, good confound on the Sap 7, followed up by Crim. But here's the thing about Jonqui. He's full HP again.
Dude Man Bro not quite being able to say the same thing. Has to use that escape underneath the Tier 1 tower. I think Vaporish should have free reign over this purple buff here, but Quig making the rotation over. Vaporish chooses not to push that issue.
No, does not like his odds in a fight where he doesn't know where the opposition is. Nobody in mid right now means that Vaporish has to show some respect on the map, and much to his own chagrin, I'm sure. Dude Man Bro at least able to pick up his own purple buff, get some of that experience, maintain level equity against Vaporish Coast, and build parity as well. Both already have got that Devourer's Gauntlet stacked up, both already moving in towards that Wind Demon. So, one of them might just get lucky. A couple of crits could be the separator in some of these team fights. And, well, I was saying earlier that the Highland Ravens would struggle around objectives. Now that Vaporish Coast has some crit early on, those objectives could burn a lot more quickly.
Here comes Rapio once again on the right-hand side. This time, Oath choosing to ult Ramakami straight up. And now there's Mogao using his ultimate already. Luckily, the beats from Ramakami are going to save him for now, but Quig is going to get pinned down now by Silence, who's coming in. The dash away is going to keep him safe for now, but Rapio's right on his tail, and that should be 1 down. But already Mogao has fallen, and Silence is going to fall down straight away after him in a 2-for-1 trade. Now Mifflin, with the solo laner down and the support down as well, this could be a Pyromancer option open for the Hounds.
I think it could be. Oath and Ramakami still incredibly healthy, but Ramakami no ultimate available means that Pyromancer would burn pretty slow. Taking a peek at the rotation pathing, seems like Oath not too concerned with it. Instead, would rather steal away some of this farm, but maybe walks a little too far forward. Does meet up with Sap 7, takes a bit of damage.
Oh, it's fine, dude. He's got a free blink. He's got a blink. He doesn't have a blink, actually. That's my mistake. No blink available for Oath.
That's a shell.
He's got the teleport.
They look very different.
Listen, this is what I get for assuming. Should have taken more than a quick glance at the relic. That's my bad. But absolutely, Oath chooses to just go for that. He's perfectly safe, right? Set may be one of the safest junglers out there. Maybe you include Susano in that bracket.
Yeah, just the ability to keep people guessing on where you're going to teleport as well. When you spawn up multiple spawn of set, it just makes it so hard for the Highland Ravens to figure out exactly where Oath has got his eyes. And speaking of survivability, it looks like it could be a Blood Forge in that 3rd slot. When you pick up a kill, going to gain an additional HP shield. And 3-0-3 seems like he's getting a fair bit of kills as of now. 50% belong to him, 100% affected by Oath. This set is off to a roaring start.
Absolutely. Now just going back to the neutral farm, Mifflin, so far doesn't look like anyone's really too interested in these objectives. Vaporish, though, might be being labeled as the objective for the Hounds. Decide against it. For now, is Silenced. The new target up here in the jungle. Oath is really able to chew through this tank, and there's the ultimate through from Athena. Those sand clones are gonna slow him to death. Silenced has not been able to get a word in edgeways this game.
Yeah, and you'd think that the slow immunity that Cabrakan has would help out in situations like that, but it just has not.
Sap gets taunted back into the Rift of Ghosts. He's gonna take a fair amount of damage, falls down to half HP there, and already in the wall is
Whiff?
Cleo. Yeah, that didn't look like it was going to whiff there, but Ramakami, maybe. I mean, he's not going to get a kill off of that anyway, just a little bit of extra poke. Lamoga now under this Tier 1 tower. Rapio potentially looking to just head the Eldritch Hounds off as they move into this right-hand jungle. Forced to jump away. Look at the damage that Ramakami was able to put out there.
Dude Man Bro, meanwhile, is able to take down the Tier 1 tower. The Eldritch Hounds, the rest of them rather, have got the objective on their eyes, and nobody from the Highland Ravens in any range to put up any sort of defense. The Eldritch Hounds take the first of the match and continue to push their lead. Still about the exact same size we saw at this point in Game 1. If we want to see it at exactly where it was, this Gold Fury would have to fall.
Dude Man Bro could be in some trouble, but Vaporish not really able to contend with that stealth away from him. Izanami just a little too slippery for Rama at this stage in the game, so no dice there. But Tier 1 tower definitely going to get poked out here as the one in the right-hand lane falls down. Ramakami makes sure of that. Morgao could be in some danger here.
Yeah, it's really hard, right? So Ramakami in that situation is just praying, man, I hope Lamogao uses his jump, because once he dedicates it, then the Kleena would have been able to chase out very easily. But Lamogao, ever the veteran player, realizing that the only way he dies is if he uses the leap. So he does not, and Ramakami disengages himself. That said, it is a late Warlock staff for both mid laners. Both Lamogao and Sap7 working on those stacks, so neither one of them as survivable as they could be, which is why we're seeing scenarios like we are where Ramakami might be able to find some of these intriguing solo kills, where Sap7 is still a target that is very appetizing for the Eldritch Hounds to engage on. As the game goes on and as those stacks start to build up, it's going to be a lot harder to finish off these kills.
No, he's going to take so much damage. The lineup hits 3 people down. Full Sap7 for the double kill, and Oath still potentially chasing out. He's going to give it up to the rest of his team. Rapio gets picked up by Ramakami, and what a devastating play. That final judgment was massive.
Yeah, that is
No
exactly
way.
what you want, right? I mean, Ro lines it up. He says, hey, when do you want Athena? When you've got long-range artillery burst damage, and that's exactly what Crimson does. Finds the 3-man ultimate, and now can look to a 17-minute Fire Giant again. Deja vu.
Morgao, the only person here,
no.
and the silence is going to stop him from doing anything in terms of Hades-based shenanigans. This snipes through from Vaporish away to early Mifflin, and that is absolutely free for the Eldritch Hounds. 11 kills up, and Ravens, while they might have 3 more kills than before, still lose the Fire Giant in 17 minutes.
I like the wherewithal from Lamogao. He says, okay, well, you know, there's no way I'm stealing this objective, and I'm probably dead, but he tries to use his beads to leap over the wall and get HP on fire, but because he wasn't quite able to, dies before he can get over, it makes it very easy for the Eldritch Hounds to go ahead and just fall back to the fire, pull it out. Vaporish Coast was given no information by this Hades, so he has to go up to the air, thinking, well, Fire Giant's low, this is the only way I can steal, and if it's not unfortunate, I'm just not going to. And, well, it wasn't, so he didn't. Vaporish Coast simply helps out the Eldritch Hounds with their objective burn. Fire Giant and Pyromancer both fallen before the first Gold Fury is even looked at, and I don't even think the Eldritch Hounds will need to. I'm sure they can. Even Dude Man Bro could potentially solo it at this point, but towers have got to be the name of the game. This time around, though, Fire Giant 17 minutes doesn't have 6 towers to go through. Only 3 Tier 2s still standing for the Highland Ravens.
You know what I'm scared about, Mifflin? Just look at the amount of damage that Oath has been able to do. Sorry?
No, nothing. That's what I'm scared of.
Oath has already been able to do so much damage to these tanks. Look at Silenced and Morgao, for example. And this is before he's been able to pick up that kin size we've been talking about all day. It's such a strong item right now, and against 3 characters who are going to be especially tanky, not necessarily through protections, but through sheer health. I am terrified for the amount of damage that Oath is going to be able to do to these characters once that last item comes online.
Yeah, not just Oath, but Dude Man Bro as well.
For sure.
Foregone an early kin size, and I suppose that's why the Highland Ravens have decided to go towards these Warlock staffs, maybe saying, well, if they're not going to build it, we might as well get as much HP as we possibly can, but could be building themselves into a corner here. Speaking of into a corner, Rapio forced to retreat, tuck his tail, and run away as Oath just wins that 1v1 handily.
14,000 damage coming out of the Eldritch Hounds' jungler Oath. Often
good
touted
taunt.
as a star player. 2 people taunted in here by Quig. Nothing going to come off of it just yet, but the space that it's going to provide the Eldritch Hounds is going to pick them up this Tier 2 tower, and it looks like they are hungry for more.
Yeah, they've got so much time to play with on this Fire Giant that I think the Eldritch Hounds could even potentially look towards this Phoenix, especially considering there's a Trebuchet right behind them. The Highland Ravens, it's going to be a struggle
Blinking forward already quick, forces Vaporish up into the sky, and Sap straight into the back line himself. But look at the damage, Mifflin. Mogao is able to lock down one. Sap is going to fall down already to Oath. That's going to be a double kill for Oath. Triple kill. Mogao takes a spill. Silenced is going to fall down as well. Crimson able to pick up that one. Only Vaporish left alive. No quadra kill available for Oath, but Crimson might be able to pick up the double kill. The Phoenix on the left-hand side falls down, and Mifflin with 4 people down. Vaporish doesn't have a hope in hell to clean up this one, and it should be the Ravens being the first team home at SMITE Masters 2022.
The Eldritch Hounds came to play, to be sure. A convincing set for them. Combined playtime less than 50 minutes. And regardless, only 5 total deaths for this team. Game 1 was a slow start that ended quickly. This was a quick start that similarly ends quickly.
I think we can chalk game number 1 up to a beautiful play from Dudeman Pro to really, kick things off. But this game, Mifflin, this game was all Oath. This man ran the show from start to finish.
Minute 1 to minute done.
Minute 1 to minute done. That one also from starboard to port. From stern to bow. That's the lengthways of the ship.
All right.
You're welcome. You learned something today.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
I've stunned you, huh?
You have. Please put me in the right place. Say something about how good this team is.
The Eldritch Hounds able to come back. They had a bit of a stumble earlier this morning, losing in their first game, but now they are setting up for a rematch against the Gladiators, and you'll have to come back in just a couple moments to see that, because I'm excited to see.
Welcome back to the SMITE Masters in our first elimination match of the day. It's the Eldritch Hounds who come out on top, and they'll be sending the Highland Ravens back home packing on day number 1 of our event, which means the Eldritch Hounds will move on, and they'll be able to have a rematch against the team that sent them down onto the lower half of the bracket. My name is Shemak. With me is Ro to break down the game number 2 of that set, but it kind of comes down to a lot of what you were saying, alluding to earlier on to the desk. The scaling of the Hounds definitely favored them as you move towards the later stage of the game. And that one fight over into the solo lane was about 8-10 minutes in, where it was a 3 versus 3. Kind of really showed just how much more important that damage is early on.
Yeah, look, it looked like a couple times that Ravens were actually winning those fights in the solo lane, and then all of a sudden Oath comes in, rotates in, cleans up some kills, you know, ends up building a Blood Forge as well, so when he's cleaning up those kills, he ends up snowballing. And look, a lot of those games, and I'm sure a lot of these highlights will just be Oath chasing Silence down the lane or through the jungle and just wailing on him and he can't get away. Like this was an example that I was talking about, where Oath just gets to come in, you know, most of the CC is down, he gets to pop his ultimate, do all the damage he needs to, and gets the kills.
I remember we were sitting in the green room, and David just made one offhand comment in this fight in particular. Goes, man, that was a lot of screaming that we just heard from this clean. I think, 3 or 4 different instances of that first ability popped through, and a couple of those ultimates also fired through that same fight.
Yeah, that's what happens when she gets the Scream off, then they proc the Genjis, and then she gets the Scream off again. She has cooldown from Blue Buff, she has the cooldown from Soul Eater and Genjis, like I said, so she's doing a lot of damage with those Screams. She's ulting a lot for every single wave pretty much, and a lot during the fights. She can dash. You know, it's as a Hades, you want to catch somebody without a dash, but when they have that much cooldown on an assassin that is fast by itself and then has a dash, it's really hard to catch him in a full duration ult. And then on top of that, you know, there was a beads on Remikami as well, so really hard to catch a full Hades ult in that character.
Yeah, a bit of a struggle here on the side of Mogao and the Highland Ravens, not able to find a victory up against the Eldritch Hounds. Hounds will move on with a 2-0 here, and all these highlights over onto Oath just for how much he got to W key throughout the entirety of the game, finished with a 10-0 slash line, 5 assists, and a 3rd item Blood Forge. Really just tells you pretty much the state of how the game went for the entirety of it.
Yeah, I mean, perfect scenario for him, basically. The way that they needed to play, the way Ravens needed to play around the set is to kite back while he's chasing you. That way you're not in range of the Thoth damage, you're not in range of the Izanami damage, and you're not in range of, like, further Athena taunts as well. But they were kind of just trying to hold their ground, you know, they'll drop the Zhonghui ult, the Hades ultimate, and try to just get as much AoE damage as possible instead of taking care of those assassins as they come in. So Oath was able to go in with his team around him, not get the full attention of the enemy team, and just keep smacking them and eventually get the kills.
And with that one, as I said earlier, the Hounds will move on in the day, which means that they will be having a rematch against the team that put them on the lower side. The Gilded Gladiators are going to be the next opposition for the Eldritch Hounds to face off against. The winner of that one will move on to day number 2. The loser will be sent home just like the Highland Ravens and will not continue on in the SMITE Masters event. And getting knocked out day number 1 is never going to be a great feeling out there. You want to try and get as much of a run as you can out here. But so far for the Ravens, that run has come to an end.
It has, yeah. I mean, at least they're not going home. They're kind of just logging off because they already are home. So there's no travel back to be sad about. But still, I'm sure they're not feeling great after that one. Look, they did put up a bit of a fight. They brought things that were unconventional, and they put their best foot forward despite being at a slight disadvantage from the game that they had.
They did do so here. But the Gilded Gladiators will be the ones who face off next against the Eldritch Hounds to see if EU can finally get that big punch back and maybe send a North American team packing this time around, maybe see if they can at least reprise a little bit of that EU pride for themselves over here. And I'm sure that this is a very strong squad that could do so. The Gilded Gladiators are one to really adapt when it comes down to these kinds of LAN environments. We'll see if they can do that in their next matchup. That'll be coming up right after this.